The next day, Jalin couldn't shake off the strange encounter in Queen Falara's room. He had tried to go about his usual work, fixing doors, checking panels, and cleaning up the station, but his mind kept drifting back to that room, to the tall figure of the queen watching him with those deep silvery eyes. He couldn't help but wonder why she hadn't ordered him out or had him arrested. Why hadn't she treated him like every other alien species did, like an outsider, someone to be ignored, or dismissed? The door to his small quarters slid open as Jalin entered, but he barely noticed. His thoughts were still tangled in the strange events of the previous day. He sat down on his bed and let out a deep breath. It was hard to focus on anything else as he leaned back. His data pad blinked to life. A message had arrived. It was from a station officer reminding him of his duties, but there was something else at the bottom of the message. Please report to the Queen's chamber at 1400 hours. An important request has been made. Jalin stared at the message for a long moment, blinking. His first thought was to ignore it. After all, what could the Queen possibly want with someone like him? But something deep inside him felt a pull, an urge to understand what was happening. He didn't know why, but he knew he couldn't ignore this chance. It was as if the universe had nudged him into this situation, and he had to see where it led. At exactly 1400 hours, Jalin found himself standing before the same door he had stumbled through the day before. His heart was pounding in his chest. He didn't know what to expect this time. He could only hope that the Queen wasn't angry with him for his unintentional intrusion. The door slid open, and there she was. Queen Fura was seated in her throne-like chair, her long tentacles twisting around her like living shadows. The room felt colder today, though it wasn't any different from yesterday. Her gaze was still the same, intense, calculating, but now there was something new in her eyes. Curiosity. Jalin, she said, her voice calm and soft, but there was a sharpness to it that still made him stand a little straighter. You have returned. Jalin nodded, feeling awkward. Yes, Your Majesty. I wasn't sure why you wanted to see me. The Queen didn't respond immediately. Instead, she studied him carefully, her eyes never leaving his face. There was something almost unnerving about it. It felt like she was searching for something hidden deep inside him. You are different from the others, she said at last, her voice almost thoughtful. Other species, they look at me with fear, but you do not. Jalin swallowed hard. I didn't mean to offend you, he said quickly, his voice shaky. I don't know why I wasn't afraid. The Queen's lips curved ever so slightly, but it wasn't a smile. It was something else, something that Jalin couldn't quite place. Perhaps that is why I find you interesting. Jalin blinked in surprise. Interesting me? Yes, Thala replied, her tone almost playful. Now you are human. Your species is young in the galaxy, but you are different. You do not fear what others fear, and you do not follow the rules like the others. I see it in your eyes. Jalin felt a strange mix of pride and confusion. He had never been someone special back on Earth, just another face in the crowd, but here in this vast space station with beings from so many different worlds, he felt noticed for the first time in his life. Someone or something was paying attention to him. Why are you telling me this? Jalin asked, trying to push aside the growing sense of unease in his chest. What do you want from me? Falara's eyes softened, and she tilted her head slightly. I do not wish to command you, Jalin, but I do wish to understand you. Your kind, you speak of things that others do not, things like hope, dreams, even failure. Jalin stared at her. You want to understand humans? The Queen nodded. Yes, I have been watching the beings of this station for many cycles. I have learned their languages, their politics, their desires, but you humans, you are different. You do not fear death as others do. You make mistakes, but you rise again. It is something I cannot comprehend. Jalin was silent for a moment, absorbing her words. I'm not sure I understand what you mean. The stood up slowly, her tendrils swaying gently. She took a step closer to him, her tall form towering over him. Jalin didn't move, but he could feel his heartbeat in his throat. Perhaps, she said softly, you will help me understand. Perhaps you will teach me what it means to be human. Jalin didn't know what to say. The weight of her words hung in the air, thick and heavy. She wasn't asking for his help in the way he had expected. It wasn't about fixing a machine or delivering a message. She wanted something deeper, something that no one else had been able to explain to her, something only a human could offer. Jalin didn't know how to teach her what it meant to be human, but he knew one thing: his life had just taken a turn he could never have imagined. The next few days passed in a blur for Jalin. He couldn't stop thinking about his conversations with Queen Thalara. It was like his mind had been pulled into a new world, a world of questions and mysteries. What did she see in him? Why had she chosen him of all people to talk to, and why did she keep Asking him about humanity, he had never felt so important yet so confused. He tried to focus on his daily work, but every time he passed the door to the Queen's chamber his mind raced. The thought of her waiting for him, silently observing him, made his heart beat faster. Was it normal for a human to feel this way about an alien queen? Jalen wasn't sure. He had never felt like this before. On the fourth day after their last meeting, Jalen received another message. It was simple, but the words stood out too. Him return to the Queen's chamber. She has further questions. Jalen took a deep breath. He had no idea what to expect this time, but something in the back of his mind told him he had to go. He couldn't ignore her requests, not now. As he walked through the hallways of the station toward the Queen's room, he noticed the usual strange silence around him. Alien species of all kinds passed by, but no one seemed to notice him. No one paid attention to a simple maintenance worker. Except for the Queen, she had taken notice of him, and that made everything different. When he arrived at the Queen's door, it opened without a sound. Far was already there, seated on her high platform, her long tentacles draped over the sides like a spider, weaving a web. Her eyes locked onto him. As soon as he entered, Jalen, she said, her voice soft but firm, come closer. Jalen stepped into the room, his mind racing. He had learned to keep his movements calm around her. The last thing he wanted was to show fear or confusion. He had to act like he belonged here, even if he didn't fully understand why he was here. I have been observing you, Thura continued, her eyes scanning him like a scientist examining a rare specimen. Your thoughts, your actions, your reactions, you are unlike the others. Jalen stood silently waiting for her to continue. He didn't know what she meant by unlike the others. He was just a regular human, wasn't he? The other species here are driven by power, said, by control, but you are driven by something else, something I do not understand. Jalen felt his chest tighten. What do you mean? The gaze softened, though it was still intense. You do not seek to conquer, you do not seek to dominate, yet you stand here before me and you are not afraid. Jalen didn't know what to say to that. He had never thought of himself as anything special. He had just been a worker, a simple man doing his job. But now, in this room with the Queen's eyes on him, he felt as though he was being judged by something far beyond his understanding. You keep asking about humanity, Jalen said slowly, but why me? Thura's expression remained unreadable, but her voice held a hint of curiosity. Because you humans are not like the others. You are young, yes, but your spirit is different. You dream, you fail, you get back up. The other races, they do not understand this. They are trapped in their own ways. Jalen felt a small spark of pride. He had always been told that humans were resilient, that they could face any challenge no matter how hard, but to hear it from the Queen of a species as ancient and powerful as the Serentha, it felt different, it felt real. I'm not sure I understand what you mean, Jalen admitted. I don't feel any different from anyone else. Farah nodded slowly. Perhaps not, but I have seen something in you that I have never seen in others, a willingness to learn, to adapt, to question. It is fascinating. Jalen blinked in surprise. You think fascinating? Yes, she said, her tone steady. Your ability to learn, to grow, is what sets you apart. It is something the other species have lost over time. They do not question their ways, they do not change. Jalen took a deep breath. This was a lot to process. He had always thought of himself as ordinary, just another person in the crowd, but now in this moment, he realized that perhaps the Queen saw something more in him, something that even he hadn't fully understood yet. Do you really think humans can teach you something? Jalen asked, his voice quiet but filled with uncertainty. These eyes met his, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, she answered, her voice low and thoughtful. I believe that you can teach me what it means to be alive, not just to survive, but to truly live. That is why I have brought you here, Jalen, to learn from you. Jalen stood there stunned by her words. He had never expected this, to be a teacher to an alien queen of all things. But something inside him stirred. Maybe there was more to humanity than he had ever realized. Maybe he could help understand the very thing that made humans who they were, their ability to keep moving forward, no matter the odds. As he stood before the Queen, he realized that he wasn't just here by chance. He was here for a reason, and whatever that reason was, it was far bigger than he had ever imagined. The days passed, but Jalen couldn't shake the feeling that something was building, something important. Queen Thalara's interest in him had grown deeper. She asked more questions, listened carefully to his answers, and shared her thoughts with him in ways that felt personal. They spoke not just of humanity, but of everything: dreams, fears, history, and the future. Each Conversation was more meaningful than the last, and Jalen started to realize how much he was learning from her too. But not everyone aboard Argona Prime was happy about their growing connection. Rumors began to spread through the station. Whispers of an unnatural alliance between a human and the Saranthan Queen reached the ears of the station's leaders. Some felt threatened by Fella's interest in Jalen after all. The Sarantha were an ancient race, and they didn't trust outsiders. And while Thera had never openly spoken of her reasons for bringing Jalen into her chambers, the whispers were clear. The Queen was changing. She was opening up to someone who should have been beneath her, someone who had no place in her world. Jalen had heard bits and pieces of these rumors from the other workers, and it made him uneasy. He wasn't interested in politics, he just wanted to help the Queen understand humanity. But with each passing day, the tension grew. The station's council began to take notice, and the talks between alien species on Argoma Prime grew more heated. The Sarantha had always been silent players, keeping to themselves, but now there were signs that they might take a more active role in the galaxy's affairs. It wasn't long before Jalen found himself summoned to a council meeting. The council chambers were large and cold, surrounded by tall windows that looked out into the endless black of space. The room was filled with leaders from every species, each more intimidating than the next. Their eyes followed Jalen as he entered, and he felt the weight of their gazes. He had never been in a room with so many powerful beings, but it wasn't just their eyes on him, it was the eyes of the Queen seated at the far end of the room, watching him with those sharp silver eyes. We are here to discuss the growing concerns over the Queen's behavior. One of the council members, a tall and angular creature from the planet Vakar, began. It has come to our attention that the Sarantha Queen has been interacting with a human Jalon too. Be precise, this is highly unusual. The Queen has never shown such interest in an outsider. Jalen's heart raced, but he kept his face calm. He knew that whatever happened next would change everything. We must ask the Vakar representative continued why the Queen has chosen this human over all others. What does she see in him? Jalen glanced at the who remained silent, her expression unreadable. He felt a surge of warmth. He had never expected to be the center of attention in this way, but he also understood the stakes. The Sarantha were powerful. If they saw him as a threat or a tool to be manipulated, it could lead to serious consequences. Fala finally spoke, her voice calm but filled with authority. I see something in Jalen that none of you have. He is not like the others. His spirit is different. His humanity is a mystery to me. I wish to understand it. The room fell silent. The council members exchanged nervous glances. Some were clearly uncomfortable with her response. It was one thing for Thea to speak of peace, but now she was speaking about understanding something as unpredictable as humanity. Another council member, a creature with glowing blue skin from the planet Nari, spoke up. We cannot ignore the fact that a human is gaining the Queen's favor. It could be seen as a sign of weakness, and weakness is not tolerated. Jalen felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He wasn't here to be a symbol of anything. He wasn't here to cause trouble, but the words stung. He had always known that the Queen's interest in him could cause problems. He had just never imagined how serious it could get. I am not weak. Falara's voice cut through the tension. I am simply learning. Her words were simple, but they carried a weight that seemed to silence the room. Jalen's respect for her grew in that moment. She wasn't afraid to admit that she didn't have all the answers. She wasn't trying to control everything. She was trying to understand, to grow, and somehow he felt honored to be a part of that. But the tension in the room didn't go away. The council members continued to argue, some wanting to distance themselves from the Queen, while others supported her need for understanding. But no one could ignore the growing conflict. The other species were watching closely. Some were afraid of what the Sarantha might do. Others were more concerned with their own power and influence. Jalen knew that the next few days would be crucial. The Sarantha were too important in the galaxy for their actions to go unnoticed. And if they were to choose a side, if the Queen were to continue her relationship with humanity, then the balance of power might shift forever. And that Jalen realized was the point. The Queen wasn't just learning from him, she was challenging the very idea of what it meant to be powerful. The other species, the council, even the station itself, they were all afraid of change. But maybe that's what humanity had to offer, the ability to grow, to change, to move beyond the old ways. And in that moment, Jalen realized that his simple mistake walking into the Queen's room had brought him to the center of something far bigger than he could have ever imagined. The council Meeting ended in a storm of disagreements, but Jalan couldn't shake the feeling that he had just witnessed. The start of something big. The voices in the room were loud, their concerns echoing off the cold walls of the chamber, but in the midst of all the chaos, Queen Thera had remained calm. She didn't back down, and that alone made Jalan admire her even more as he left the council chambers. His mind raced. What did this mean for him, for the Queen, for humanity? He wasn't sure, but he knew one thing for certain: things were changing. The next few days on Arona Prime were tense. The station's leaders kept a close eye on Jalan. He noticed more than a few suspicious glances from other workers as he moved through the halls. The rumors about him and the Queen had spread like wildfire. Some people whispered that the Serena were planning something that could affect the entire galaxy. Others thought Jalan was being used as a pawn, though he wasn't sure by whom. Jalan spent his days working, trying to keep his mind off the growing tension around him, but every night he couldn't help but think about the Queen. He had never expected to be part of something so important. He had never even imagined that he would speak to someone like Thera, let alone form a connection with her. It was late one evening when he received another message from the Queen. The words were simple, but they made his heart skip a beat. Meet me at the usual time. I have something to show you. Jalen's stomach fluttered as he read the message. What could she possibly want to show him? His mind ran wild with possibilities, but he tried to focus. Whatever it was, he would face it head on. He had come this far. There was no turning back now. When he arrived at her chamber, the doors slid open to reveal the Queen waiting for him. She was standing by a large holographic display, her tendrils gently moving in the air. For a moment, Jalan just watched her, unsure of what was going to happen next. Jalan, Thalera said softly, her voice carrying the weight of something important. I have seen many things in my time, but what I am about to show you is unlike anything I have ever witnessed. Jalan stepped closer, his curiosity piqued. What is it? The Queen's tendrils danced over the display, and the hologram shifted slowly. A map of the galaxy appeared before them, glowing with bright stars and planets, but something was different about the map. It wasn't just a map of where things were, it was alive. It moved, showing changes in real time, shifting as if it were breathing. This, the said, her voice filled with awe, is the heart of the galaxy. It is a living network of energy that connects all things, all species, all stars, all planets. It is the lifeblood of the universe. Jalan stared at the map in amazement. I've never seen anything like it. Few have, Thera replied. The heart is ancient. It has existed for longer than even the Sarar Rintha can remember, but it is not just energy, it is conscious, it feels it. Knows. Jalan frowned, trying to understand. So what does this have to do with me? They looked at him with a deep, almost sad expression. The heart of the galaxy has been changing. It has begun to shift in ways we do not understand, and it is reaching out to you. Jalan, it has recognized something in you, something human. Jalan took a step back, his mind racing. What do you mean? How can it recognize me? It is difficult to explain, Farah said, her voice quiet, but the heart has been watching, it has been waiting, and now it is calling to you. Jalan was silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Could this be real? Was he really part of something this huge? The heart of the galaxy was not just an idea, it was and it was choosing him. But why? I don't understand, Jalan said softly, more to himself than to the Queen. Why me? I'm just a maintenance worker. I'm no one special. Valera's gaze softened, and she took a step closer to him. That is the very thing that makes you special, Kaelin. You are human. You are not bound by the old ways, the ways of the ancient species. You have something that others have lost. Hope, the ability to dream, to change. That is what the heart of the galaxy has recognized in you. Jalan was overwhelmed by her words. He had always thought of himself as ordinary. He had always tried to live a quiet life, keeping his head down, doing his job, but now he was being told that he had something the universe needed, something that could change the course of history. For a moment, there was silence between them. The room felt colder, the weight of the situation hanging in the air. What do I do? Jalan finally asked. The council meeting ended in a storm of disagreements, but Jalan couldn't shake the feeling that he had just witnessed the start of something big. The voices in the room were loud, their concerns echoing off the cold walls of the chamber, but in the midst of all the chaos, Queen Thera had remained calm. She didn't back down, and that alone made Jalan admire her even more. As he left the council chambers, his mind raced. What did this mean for him? For the Queen, for humanity? He wasn't sure, but he knew one thing for certain. Things were changing. The next few days on Argona Prime were tense. The station's leaders kept a close eye on Jalan. he noticed more than a few suspicious glances from other workers as he moved. Through the halls, the rumors about him and the Queen had spread like wildfire. Some people whispered that the Serentha were planning something that could affect the entire galaxy. Others thought Jalen was being used as a pawn, though he wasn't sure by whom. Jalen spent his days working, trying to keep his mind off the growing tension around him, but every night he couldn't help but think about the Queen. He had never expected to be part of something so important. He had never even imagined that he would speak to someone like Thera, let alone form a connection with her. It was late one evening when he received another message from the Queen. The words were simple, but they made his heart skip a beat. Meet me at the usual time. I have something to show you. Jalen's stomach fluttered as he read the message. What could she possibly want to show him? His mind ran wild with possibilities, but he tried to focus. Whatever it was, he would face it head-on. He had come this far. There was no turning back now. When he arrived at her chamber, the doors slid open to reveal the Queen waiting for him. She was standing by a large holographic display, her tendrils gently moving in the air. For a moment, Jalen just watched her, unsure of what was going to happen next. Jalen said softly, her voice carrying the weight of something important. I have seen many things in my time, but what I am about to show you is unlike anything I have ever witnessed. Jalen stepped closer, his curiosity piqued. What is it? The Queen's tendrils danced over the display, and the hologram shifted slowly. A map of the galaxy appeared before them, glowing with bright stars and planets. But something was different about the map. It wasn't just a map of where things were, it was alive. It moved, showing changes in real time, shifting as if it were breathing. This set her voice filled with awe. Is the heart of the galaxy. It is a living network of energy that connects all things, all species, all stars, all planets. It is the lifeblood of the universe. Jalen stared at the map in amazement. I've never seen anything like it. Few have replied. The heart is ancient. It has existed for longer than even the Serentha can remember. But it is not just energy, it is conscious. It feels, it knows. Jalen frowned, trying to understand. So what does this have to do with me? Falera looked at him with a deep, almost sad expression. The heart of the galaxy has been changing. It has begun to shift in ways we do not understand, and it is reaching out to you. Jalen, it has recognized something in you, something human. Jalen took a step back, his mind racing. What do you mean? How can it recognize me? It is difficult to explain, said her voice quiet, but the heart has been watching. It has been waiting, and now it is calling to you. Jalen was silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Could this be real? Was he really part of something this huge? The heart of the galaxy was not just an idea. It was alive, and it was choosing him. But why? I don't understand, Jalen said softly, more to himself than to the Queen. Why me? I'm just a maintenance worker. I'm no one special. Thea's gaze softened, and she took a step closer to him. That is the very thing that makes you special, Jalen. You are human. You are not bound by the old ways, the ways of the ancient species. You have something that others have lost: hope, the ability to dream, to change. That is what the heart of the galaxy has recognized in you. Jalen was overwhelmed by her words. He had always thought of himself as ordinary. He had always tried to live a quiet life, keeping his head down, doing his job, but now he was being told that he had something the universe needed, something that could change the course of history. For a moment there was silence between them. The room felt colder, the weight of the situation hanging in the air. What do I do? Jalen finally asked. Falera's eyes locked onto his, her voice steady but filled with purpose. You must follow the call. The heart of the galaxy is waiting, and it is waiting for you, Jalen. You must choose whether you will answer. Jalen's heart raced. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he knew one thing: his life would never be the same again, and whatever path lay before him, he would walk it. The next few days were a blur. For Jalen, Falera's words echoed in his mind constantly. The heart of the galaxy is waiting. It was impossible for him to ignore the weight of what she had said. He had always thought of himself as an ordinary man just doing his job, but now he was being told that he had been chosen not by any person but by something much larger, something that connected the universe itself. Jalen tried to focus on his work, but it was hard. Every time he walked down the corridors of Argona Prime, his thoughts drifted back to the Queen. Her presence was like a quiet hum in the back of his mind. She had shared something powerful with him, something that made him feel both incredibly small and incredibly important at the same time. One evening, as Jalen sat alone in his small quarters, the message came again. It was from Thera. The time has come. Meet me in the central chamber. It is time to begin. His heart skipped a beat, there was no turning back now, he stood up his hands. Shaking slightly as he prepared to leave, he wasn't sure what would happen next, but one thing was certain, his life was about to change forever. When Jalan entered the central chamber, the atmosphere was different, the room was dimly lit and the air seemed to vibrate with an energy he couldn't explain. Fala was standing in front of the large holographic map, again her eyes focused on it, as if she were studying it. Intently, Jalan, she said as he stepped closer, her voice steady but filled with a quiet urgency. This is where the journey begins. Jalen's heart pounded in his chest. What journey? Thea turned to face him, her expression serious. The heart of the galaxy is calling to you. You must follow its path, and I will help. We have no choice. The universe needs you. The weight of her words sank in, and Jalan felt the air around him grow heavier. He had no idea what he was about to do, but the thought of following a call so ancient and so powerful was both terrifying and thrilling. You must understand, Jalan, Thera continued, the heart is not just a force of energy, it is the essence of the galaxy itself. It guides everything: life, death, growth, decay. The universe is constantly shifting, but right now it is in danger. We are all in danger. Jalan felt his stomach tighten. Danger from what? The eyes darkened. There are forces at work in the galaxy, forces that seek to control the heart. They want to use its power for their own gain. They will stop at nothing to control the very flow of life itself, and if they succeed, the balance of the entire universe will be destroyed. Jalan's mind raced. This was bigger than anything he had ever imagined. So what do I do? How do I stop them? You will not stop them alone, Thea said, her tone softening, but you will be the key. You will unlock the path to the heart. The journey you are about to take is not just physical, it is spiritual. You must connect with the heart, understand it, and let it guide you. Jalen's thoughts swirled in confusion. This was all so much to process. He had never asked for any of this. He had never even wanted to be involved in something so dangerous, but the Queen believed in him. She trusted him, and if he didn't do something now, the consequences could be disastrous for everyone. I don't know if I'm ready for this, Jalan admitted quietly. Thais stepped closer, her voice gentle. You may not feel ready, Jalan, but the heart has already chosen you, and I will be here to guide you. You are not alone. Jalan swallowed hard, looking at the holographic map again. The stars on it seemed to pulse with an ancient energy, as if they were alive. He couldn't deny the pull he felt toward it, a deep instinct that told him this was the right path. He had no idea where it would lead or what dangers lay ahead, but he knew one thing for certain: this was his moment. Where do we start? He asked, his voice firm despite the uncertainty swirling inside him. Falara gave a small nod. We start by following the map. The heart of the galaxy is calling you to a place known as the Nexus. It is the center of the heart's energy. If we can reach it, we can understand what is happening. We can stop the forces that threaten us. Jalen's heart raced again. The Nexus, it sounded like a place out of legend, a place that only existed in the stories of ancient races, and now he was going to it. Clara stepped back and gestured to the map. The journey will not be easy. We will face dangers along the way, enemies who want to see us fail, but I believe in you, Jalan. I believe you can do this. Jalan took a deep breath, his eyes fixed on the path ahead. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing: he wasn't going to back down. Now he would follow the path no matter where it led. I'm ready, he said, his voice